So, welcome to Two Dads and Six Daughters, our weekly show with me, Tony Scott, and my best friend, Marc Clarke, who is the godfather of my second daughter, Olivia.
Man,
And man, she's man, I never thought, I never thought this would be, it never crossed my mind how difficult it would be. I mean, and I feel like like a weasel because she's only 14 miles away.
yeah.
But man, just the pain, her not here, man, just breaks my heart. But it's all for a good thing, right? But for some reason, I miss her, and
Well,
it's hard, man.
Tony, you like to have your family close. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we all do. But I'm just saying, you are that. That's what you do. You don't do much.
yeah,
You do family. That's what
yeah.
you
I do
do.
family.
You family. That's what I do.
Hey, you family,
Hey,
you
family.
family.
That's what I
So
do.
I never thought it
So,
would be this difficult, though, man.
yeah.
But it's been pretty tough, and it's gotten no better. I thought it was getting better, but nah. She spent the weekend here this past weekend, and then uh, normally my wife takes her back. But I took her back, because I wanted to spend a little bit more time with her. And then, I mean, it was so bad, man. I couldn't even work Monday.
You almost got in a wreck coming back, tearing up, man.
Well, it wasn't that bad, but I mean, but it was, I couldn't work Monday. I couldn't function. So,
So
uh,
see all those people that say you're a hard ass. Look at you taking
well, you
off
know what?
work.
I've changed, but it's just one of those things that, it's just, I guess it's a process, I guess. I don't know, but it's one of those things. So,
No,
um,
no, Tony, you can't move in with her. Okay.
no, she's
I know.
got a beautiful young lady who's her roommate. So no, and it's already crowded in there anyway. So there's no room for anything in there. So it's pretty crowded. So you don't have a problem with you crying in front of your girls, do you?
Oh no, they see me cry so many times. It's almost embarrassing. It's like,
there
okay,
he
here you
goes.
go. Here comes the waterworks.
They were like you the Dick Vermeil of dads or something,
Yeah, man.
man.
You get emotional. We had,
So do they cry when you cry?
yeah,
They
yeah,
do.
yeah. But I had, yeah. Yeah. It's a very Allison having a family makes me. I was emotional anyway.
Yeah,
You knew me as a single man.
yeah.
But now add the girls to it and the wife, man. It's like something that I probably wouldn't cry by myself with Allison around or the kids. I find myself being very hyper emotional,
Mm.
and so I guess it's I guess it's that responsibility or that connection or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, man, add them to the mix,
Yeah.
and I'm done.
See,
You
now
know,
back in the day when we worked together, if you'd have been the married one and I'd have been the single one, I'd have called you a little bitch.
what do you mean back then? You still do.
No, I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't do that
You
now.
keep it all
No.
inside,
No,
man.
well, see, my father taught me not to cry.
Yeah,
So I don't cry. And so, like, when he died, I didn't cry.
yeah.
Not one, I have never cried over him passing away.
Mm.
And I think about him a lot of times every day
What do
of
you?
what he taught me and things like that.
So what happens when you probably when I would cry if I were in your situation? What happens? Do you feel a certain pressure inside your head? Where does that emotion go, or is it just you're not
It,
attached?
I'm just not attached to that emotion.
Hmm. But
You
like
know,
with Olivia being that after taking her to school, you felt a little bit overwhelmed though. So you don't have
You
like
know
a
what? I'll tell you when I felt overwhelmed. A couple weeks ago, we were texting each other back and forth, and we were through for the night. I said, "Good night, baby girl. I love you." She texted me back, "I love you too. I miss you." And when she did that, I teared up.
Yeah,
You
she
know,
broke through. Okay, so
and but
so
but but other than that, I don't feel like necessarily like crying like when I took her back to school Sunday.
hmm
But I just felt like empty.
mm.
You
Well,
know.
a connection. Well, I've been watching. I was trying to think. We interviewed years ago Ayanna Van Zandt, correct?
Mm. Yeah.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best experience. We had a kind of rough time with her, right?
Yeah.
And then when I got to Baltimore, we became closer. Actually,
You and her.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was a regular on the show, and we became closer. And so watching her show, I just told Allison this today. You see a pattern, or as some of us say, a pattern
A pattern.
of older people. They grew up in an era like your dad, and
Hmm.
probably culturally, black Hispanics, where crying was weak, or you just didn't cry. The guys didn't cry.
Right.
But it's interesting when you see the show and a father, Ayanla, kind of hits him with the everything and paints the picture. And you see this guy who in his 70s or even 80s who never really cried. They almost it's very uncomfortable to see because they almost like implode,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they've never done it before. And it finally hits them. It's like coming face to face with what you've done to your kids. And so it's interesting you say that because I think that's a dynamic that's very real as far as an age gap where there was a generation that basically said, look, especially with men, look, I provide for the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I show you I love you. You know, in
Mm-hmm.
fact, that's a famous line in the play Fences, James Earl Jones. Basically, you know, I say I love you because I'm supporting the family. I'm still here, ain't I? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like my verses now. And you know, everybody says I love you, and people don't
Yeah.
say they love you. And so it is interesting that I think more and more men are able to say it, but I think it still is a big factor where a lot of guys aren't because they don't
Yeah.
either have a man around
Right.
at all, or they have to figure it out themselves. You know.
Yeah. I got
So
you.
for me, it's never been a issue of manlyhood or crying, and I think the fact that I was a big guy helped because a lot of those men rules that
Mm-hmm.
guys live by, even I don't think I ever lived by them because, you know, I was
But
always
but
emotional.
you didn't grow up with a man constantly telling you don't cry.
No, no. And I didn't feel I think sometimes boys feel a certain thing, you know, around other boys, you have to act manly or have to act. I never had that. I didn't feel that way. But again, I think a part of it, I always contribute. I always say, I think because I was a big guy, you know, I got away with it. People still they still cracked on you,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
didn't, it's different. You know what I mean? I think little guys
Yeah.
are always fighting for something.
Yeah.
Big guys, I think people almost, there's a certain thing, they don't test you as much.
Well, I know, like, if if for whatever reason I had to raise my grandsons, I don't think I would like be that. Don't cry. I don't think I would be that. But I will say this, that at my age now, I don't see anything wrong with it. But when I see a man cry, it bothers me.
Makes you a little uncomfortable.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Not enough to criticize them, but it
Right.
makes me uncomfortable because I grew up being programmed. Men don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but I don't see anything wrong with it. But it's just that when I see it for that split second, I'm like, what's wrong with him? It's like one of those things. But then it goes away
Yeah.
because now I understand now that that's normal.
Well, because I think the old line would be, you need to be strong for your family.
Yeah.
I think that was how it was, you know, because if you, and there is, I think that's always at play with men, like, you know, a certain degree of, you know, there's a rat in the garage. You gotta go
Mm-hmm.
get the rat.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
Mm-hmm.
get who's gonna get the rat? You gotta get the rat.
You got to get the rat. Yeah.
Inside, do you want to go get the rat? No.
No.
Are you terrified? Yes. Are you going to act like you're tough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to go in
Yeah.
there like, no, you can't. Gotta get the rat, you know, and I think this kind of happens. So I think my crying most of the time is emotional, like, you know, something touching or something emotional, not a crying like, oh, I'm so unhappy. I've never cried based on something going on with me, like sadness or unhappy or whatever.
You ever cried over a movie?
Oh yeah, that's all the time. That's what I'm saying. I cry with like anything emotional. I
Mm-hmm.
will cry about, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna cry about probably. Again, I probably plan to do the same thing. The manly stuff, I'm probably not gonna cry. You know,
I got you.
I'm not
I
gonna.
got you.
And again, we probably in the back of our mind always have that going on. Especially I got a house full of girls too, so I gotta represent. You know, I can't.
Right. I
You know,
got you. I got you. So, do you teach your girls grace and how to take the high road, or
hmm.
do you lead by example, or do you talk to them about that, about always taking the high road, stuff like that?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think the high road, if somebody puts their hands on you, probably not. But they probably will
But do
take.
you tell them that though?
Yeah, because we had an incident, and basically, I was so angry. You know, the new rule is break their freaking neck. That's the new rule.
Oh, no! Wait a minute.
If somebody puts their hand on you,
All
they need
bets
to
are
pull
off.
back enough. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think in this day, sadly, now granted, it's the wild wild west out there in a lot of ways, but also there's no honor. In our day, there was honor.
There was honor.
You'd fight somebody. Now you fight somebody, they go get a gun and kill you. So
Right, right.
you might as well not go out like no punk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I
Well,
got
the
you.
other thing is they gotta, my girls, they gotta recognize also the odds. Now, you're suburban chicks.
Hmm.
You going up against the hood. You got to check and make sure
Yeah.
because you don't want to get waxed.
Right.
Now you
Right.
just need to tell somebody what's going.
Well.
Oh, we always know. We actually always say, there's always someone there, an authority person. You
Yeah.
should speak. But
Yeah.
don't
Say
you can't
something.
let people just have their way with you.
That's
What
true.
about you? What about you?
I've always preached take the high road, but I've always told them also that if somebody puts their hands on you, you do what you got to do.
Yes,
You know.
you've said that on the radio many times before.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I mean, but I always believe that. So someone put their hands on you, that's a whole different dynamic for a girl.
Yeah,
Now, a boy, I would tell him that if a girl puts her hands on you, walk away, unless she's got like a weapon.
yeah,
But if she puts her hands on you, walk away because you will never win that battle.
yeah.
You will never ever win that battle. So I would say to walk away if you're a boy. If you're a girl, do what you got to do. So but I mean, I know Maria one time said because she had taken karate for about a month, she was like, "I'll just go into my stance." I'm like, "Man, that's not gonna work." So in the real world, that's not gonna work. So can't have that. So man, so the government got shut down, man.
Man, furloughs like a mug.
And in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, they had to cancel the Klan rally because they were going to have a rally in a national park. But once the government closed, they rescinded all the permits to have your rallies or whatever you were going to have. So they had to stop their. They couldn't have their Klan rally this weekend, so it's a wrap. So they couldn't do that.
They
So
didn't have it at Bojangles
no,
parking lot.
no, no, they couldn't do that, man. So I think they were planning something on a bigger scale, but. It's interesting though, because I was talking to somebody about this today, and I've talked to Olivia about this today, and this is why I always tell her: put yourself in a position where you don't have to rely on one paycheck.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
that's what you got to do. That's the important thing to do. But I was telling someone today that because Obamacare started today, and we're recording this on a Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, Tuesday on a Tuesday. Today's Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people. Somebody sent me a tweet that says where someone from Fox TV said, "Why is Obamacare available in 150 languages? If you can't speak English, why should you be covered?" And I was like, "Wow, really? That's how you feel for real?" How about the fact that they do speak English, but they're better at reading in their language than they are reading English? How about that?
Yeah.
Ever think about that? See, that's the thing is that when it comes to like politics, the left and the right, I'll just say this: Republicans just don't get it.
Nope. And
They don't they don't know what it's like to struggle. They've never had to struggle.
and
You
don't
know,
want to know. That's the part I think, like I say, the empathy level is just and
non-existent.
a part of you just it almost finds it unbelievable. Like they
Yeah,
would just be playing this game. I'm
yeah,
just like, wow. I'm trying to think. What's the end game for this? Like
yeah.
the inroads into people, rallying on that. I don't understand the end game. Or had they just given up? Just said, hey man, this is it.
I,
Just
I heard somebody today on TV say that the Republicans hate the president more than the devil hates holy water.
man,
I was like,
man,
damn. I was
yeah,
like, wow, true, but damn. It's like, and it's like, and I was talking to my mom about this, and I told her, I said, and this is not the case, but if it were the case, I would have no problem paying a little extra in medical care out of my paycheck if it would help someone else that couldn't get covered. You know what I'm saying? Because
but
God has blessed me. He's blessed me beyond words. So if I could do something to help like that, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I think that, but I think that's the philosophical difference that you have. I think most liberals feel that way. Most
Mm,
liberals say, okay, I got to pay taxes. It's going to help somebody. Fine. I think conservatives, say, they want to know every, and I think that's the difference. I think that is the difference. I think people who have either struggled or been through it probably empathize, have more empathy for that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they feel that way. I
Mm-hmm.
think other people are like, man, no. And then to me, the game is the the 2% or whatever, the 2%. The wealthy, they could pay for everything anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But they have as their pawns the Tea Party and those
Mm-hmm.
and that working class group of white folks mainly that are moved by they're concerned about racism. It's just fear. They're motivated by fear. The right wing is driven by fear, just like the Klan rallies and everything. It's the fear of the black president. It's the fear of poor people getting ahead. It's the fear of others getting ahead. So that's what drives that whole movement. So
That's
and it's
crazy.
much more powerful than the whole liberal speak, because that's why liberal talk shows don't do that well
Right, right, right.
versus conservative ones do.
Yeah, like Hannity and Limbaugh and
Yeah.
folks like that. So yeah, I mean it's our I mean clearly I've heard this said many times, but clearly it seems to be true that the right cares more about their party than they do about the country.
Yeah.
You know, I mean they hate the president that much that they're willing to throw all of us under the bus. And the thing is that Obamacare is law of the land. It went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says it's constitutional. It passes the test.
Yeah.
It's law of the land. So why do you have a problem? It's the will of the people. It's the law of the land. Let's move on to something else.
And sure.
They won't let it go, Mark. They won't let it go.
No. Sure. None of us knows what the hell's going on, but still, it's the law of the land.
Yeah. So I don't know if we talked about last week about Jay-Z in the Mississippi school. We're using him as a model to teach kids. And I had said that if that was a way to reach the kids, then they should go for that. But then comes this Vanity Fair interview where he talks about selling drugs. That's how he got his start.
Yes, well, that's no secret though.
It's not a secret, but you know what? Is it necessary to repeat that?
I think it's
Is it keeping it real?
Well, I think it's almost the full disclosure / transparency thing,
But we already knew that though. So does it have to keep being repeated?
Well, but see, I think what happens is it's kind of like apples and oranges. You know what I mean? Like the good that people, the example that he made it from, the bottom to the top is used to motivate kids, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But then you have the Vanity Fair article, which gives you the whole story, which isn't as pleasant and isn't as positive. So I think that's the loop we always get caught in. And I think it's better, though, to just be honest about it versus not, because if not, you get what we have now. I think I always tell my kids with history class, teaching about Christopher Columbus. Well, Christopher Columbus really didn't discover America.
True.
So, and George Washington wasn't a great man. He had slaves.
Right.
He basically played his slave. So I think we have a tendency to do that with a lot of things, kind of like take out the good and then don't talk about the bad. And so it's not really a truth. So I think, at the end of the day, I think we have to just inform our kids, and the kids have to be informed with the truth. And then they can kind of sum it up themselves. So maybe, like you said, maybe that's not a good idea to use Jay-Z, but at the same time, meeting them where they are is a way to get their attention. So I think you kind of have to do both, But I'm not mad at him for being honest in the Vanity Fair article, I got to say.
Well, I'm not mad at him for that. I'm not mad at him at all. But to me, it's like, do you have to keep talking about this? Okay, and here's the other thing. How do we know that's even true? Vanilla Ice used to say that he did this, that, and the other, and we found out. I don't know how we found out that he grew up in the suburbs and all that stuff. Yeah, so how do we know? I mean, we know he grew up in the Marcy Project and all that. Do we know for certain that he dealt drugs, or he's just doing that for street cred?
Well, I think his twist has been pretty accurate. It's confirmed pretty, by others. Well, he did a lot of it here in the Baltimore area, in the Maryland area, actually out in the Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Eastern Shore, Baltimore, he was through, and so yes, Reggie Reg and others confirmed.
There's a Reggie Reg in every city, isn't there? There's a
Yes.
Reggie Rev. There's a Pretty
Detroit,
Tony.
right?
Yeah, Reggie Reg,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And
yeah.
so, and you know what though? What happens is that we always, with these celebrities, we hear the stories, but you know what? Sometimes there really isn't a in-depth article. I think this Vanity Fair one was one of the few in-depth ones. Like
Right.
Kanye West, the controversy about his interview, his recent interview. He really hasn't given that kind of a full interview like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
on the BBC,
Mm-hmm.
really ever. And so, but then in our media age, they just take the snippets from it,
Sure.
and he looks crazy. But I watched the whole interview, and it actually was pretty amazing. I think I wouldn't be shocked if down the road that'll be in a class somewhere, because he talks about a whole bunch of things, especially art. And then with the Jay-Z case with the Vanity Fair, it's kind of the same thing, high profile, in depth with who's it, Lisa Robinson, I think, did the interview. But but I think it kind of gets mixed up though, because like you say,
Right.
I understand both sides. You say on one hand, I feel you, like the warts sometimes, it's like with Dr. King, Dr. King with the whole infidelity thing. Some will say, okay, he was a man, who cares? Does it take away from a high of a dream speech and what he stood for? No, not really. For me it doesn't, but for some it does.
Yeah.
Some people want to say no, so he's a perfect person.
Well, since we talk about Jay-Z, I know you heard about Chris Brown saying that why does Jay-Z get a pass when he stabbed somebody, and years ago, and no one ever brings that up. He dealt drugs. No one ever brings that up until this Vanity Fair article came out where he talked about it himself. And Chris Brown did what he did, and that's all everybody is is. Well, let me put it like this, and I say this all the time. Chris Brown uh, did what he did to Rihanna.
Yeah.
Obviously, she forgave him. Okay, he went to our judicial system, and he was sentenced, and he fulfilled that obligation. He paid his debt to society. The slate is supposed to be wiped clean, but you know what? He'll never get that stink off of him.
Yeah,
He will always be known as a woman beater.
Yeah.
As great as musician as Ike Turner was, Ike Turner will always be known as a man who beat the hell out of Tina.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing people think about when they think of Ike Turner, is that he beat the crap out of Tina on a regular. This is the same thing that's going to be with Chris Brown forever, because we don't forget that.
Yeah. You're right.
And so for Chris Brown, I can understand Chris Brown feeling that way, though. Well, why does Jay-Z get a pass? He actually committed an act of violence using a weapon. He stabbed somebody.
Yeah.
And no one ever brings that up.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he stab? Lance Rivera? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Exactly. But back in the day, Lance Rivera was somebody back in the day.
Yeah. But also Lance Rivera probably did leak the album too, so that was why he got stabbed.
But you don't get stabbed for that.
Well, you do in the street. See, I think, like you said, because Jay-Z he didn't hide any of that.
Yeah.
It always has been up front. It wasn't really a shot. I think it takes the power from it. Imagine if Jay-Z didn't really talk about his criminal past, and he's now Jay-Z, married to Beyonce, everything's going well. This article in Vanity Fair would have been the dun dun dun, right?
You're right.
Dun,
right.
dun. Hey, this guy was hanging out with Warren Buffett. He ain't nothing but a drug dealer.
Right.
You already knew that. So it's kind of like it doesn't take anything away, and that's probably part of his strategy to kind of like you can't really get him.
Right. I've had some very interesting dialogue, mostly on Facebook, with this one man who I respect a lot, because
he's one man.
But he does not like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
He says that Jay-Z is not a role model. Jay-Z should not have a seat at the table when it comes to trying to reach young people. He shouldn't have a seat at the table. Where I disagree.
Yeah.
Because I think Jay-Z should have a seat at the table, because he's like it or not, he's very influential.
Oh yeah. It sounds like the gentleman, God love him, but he's out of touch. And I think that's anybody who deals with young people. You know what? It's not even with young people, Tony. It's with anybody, really. You kind of have to meet people where they are.
Well, see, but a long time ago, the old school was like, back in my day, things were like this. We need to go back to that. But you know what? We can't go back to that. We'll never go back to that. That ship has sailed. These kids now have their own way. You know, I think we talked about this before. You know, the old saying was learn from my mistakes. Well, kids don't want to do that. They want to make their own mistakes,
Yep.
right? They want to watch TV, not like we watch TV. They want to watch TV when they want to watch it, and they want to be able to watch as much as they want when they want to watch it. They don't want to watch it based on the TV network schedule. They want to watch it based on my schedule.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, their whole complete way of thinking, and they don't like anything that smells of fakery.
Nope.
You
And like you
know,
said, the seat at the table, the reason is he has a seat at the table is like you said, is because he's wealthy. I can tell you something. I don't care about Mark Clark, the kids will say. Jay-Z says something. Now, what's interesting, there's a group that doesn't really care about Jay-Z either, from an
well,
artistic
sure,
standpoint. But the fact that he's had so much success, that's what they look for these days.
but to me,
He's so
above.
wealthy that it's like, okay, well now? What do I need to do with my money?
But it's not even about wealth, though. To me, it's more about his influence. He has a huge influence over people,
But
a huge influence. I mean, money. I don't know. Money plays a part in everything. I
I'm
understand
just saying
that.
the kids, sadly, that's what the kids aspire. The money part is what gets their attention
Yeah,
from a standpoint of, you know what I mean? Kind of
yeah.
like that's what gets their attention because how much do you have? What do you have? It's kind of like maybe it's because the kids the don't haves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing with the kids that we try to they're not really and my theory so far I think is working. I think the same with you. Our kids aren't seduced by all that because
No.
they have a comfortable living and they actually see they see these things, Mercedes, whatever. It takes some of the hype out of all of it, because I think that's kids who don't have it or don't have any exposure, they get so excited about certain things, and then when they grow up, they realize this. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They realize it's not as hype as I thought it was.
Right, right,
So
right,
I try to
right.
put it in front of them at least, and like, okay, that's what that's like. Okay.
But what would you do if like one of your kids like was all about the fame and wanted, like you have beautiful daughters and one of them, let's say one of them was very confident in her looks
Mm-hmm.
and knew that her looks were going to get her a lot of places. And she was like 14 years old and she just had this attitude of entitlement because she was beautiful.
Mm.
Not saying that they're not, but I'm saying, there's a difference between being beautiful and one just thinking I am you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think we would have to just keep it real at the crib, and they do. I mean, my oldest, she does. I mean, but I think you have to.
But not to the
No,
point where it's obnoxious, though. Where to
no,
the
no.
point where
Well, I
she
think
feels a sense of entitlement.
that's the advantage of having, just like you, a beautiful wife. They
Hmm.
can they can kind of keep that in check and teach the girls what's important, and not that's one thing you see again. Just like, I guess just like the obsessive wealth, a lot of these athletes and hip hop stars or whatever, rock stars even. You're right. They have the women. They kind of treat them like you said, an attractive woman can get anything she wants, that whole mentality. But the thing that's interesting to me about that is that it really plays with somebody who has low self-esteem
Hmm.
or somebody who never had nothing.
Right.
Because anytime I hear women talking about, I got to have all these bags and all that kind of stuff, that would be a sign, to me.
They're
Because it's
thirsty.
like,
They're thirsty. They're
yeah,
thirsty
yeah,
for
it's
that.
like, because when you really are a bad chick, you're not thirsty
Right.
and you're not gonna give up your life for a bag. And first of
Right.
all, who cares if you got some money to go in the bag? It's like, and so yeah, I think it does present an opportunity for us to
No,
kind of.
I was remember when we worked together that time, and that we had competition. There was this other station in the market, and they were out giving away like donuts, and then you went out with like $50 or something, and were passing out money, and then the
But
girl
they
was like,
were, yeah.
"Don't sell out your values for that."
Man, you went back, didn't you? Yeah,
That was so funny though. I was like, "Oh my, you had nerve, man! You went out there right where he went." Like a radio station would do what they call a van hit back in the day, where they get in the station van and they will go to a location. They will call back to the radio station, say, hey, we're going to be here for 10, 15 minutes. Come get a free bumper sticker t-shirt, take us to the concert, whatever it was, right? And they'd have that. That was the location they were at. Well, one morning they were out there and Mark was like, I'm going out there, man. And so I said, all right, so go. So he took the van and he went, and you were like not even 50 feet. You were really, I mean, you were like right next to her. and you set up, and you tore her down, man. Where she was like, "Don't sell out yourself for more. Don't sell your morals for whatever it was you were giving. You were giving away money or something." But oh man, that was.
The good old days.
And I
Oh
didn't mean
man,
to stop you, man. That was just something that when you said something that just triggered that thought in my mind. That was crazy.
that's
Yeah, that was the good old radio days, man.
well, yeah, and I think you do see a generation of that whole gold digger mentality. That yeah, that's what you fight against with your girls is you really just want them to have character
Mm-hmm.
and come on, man. I mean, I think again having father the studies show that having the father in their life gives them a different outlook. But I think the fact yeah any man just gonna just because he has some money he can get you that's not it.
Well, what does that make you if you fall for that?
Yeah,
What,
yeah.
what does that say about you? So you got to think about that. So, well, we are at the 30-minute mark where we are. We'll just leave it right here. Wrap it up in a nice little bundle. So I was thinking I'm gonna create a mailbox, and if people have like advice they would like from two fathers about their daughters, they
Yes.
can send it to us, and we'll read it on the air. We won't read your name or anything, but we'll read it here on the show and give our take on it and what we think you should do. We're not professionals.
We're not degreed.
We're just fathers who are raising 6 daughters.
That's right.
So if you want to, I'll get a mailbox and I'll put it down on the lower thirds and everything, as they say at the bottom of the screen. So Mark has an iHeartRadio channel that you
Well,
can go and listen to. He had content on. There was something I heard you do last week. Oh, the thing about name words.
yeah.
That
My
was
mic, my
that
mic
was
sounded terrible, but
that was very good though, man. That was very good. So
well,
and he's
and I want to plug my app. With your phone, I have an app that's available, free app. It's a Mark Clarke app. It's MarcClarke. You can get that on all of the phone systems. Now, the iPhone, the spelling is kind of janky. It's Marc and actually the Clarke. I think they added an extra Ke. It's going to take
mm-hmm.
them about a couple of days to switch it, but type in Mark Clarke and it might still come up. As more people get it, you'll get it. But as far as the other phone systems, it's Mark Clarke,
Okay.
Android and BlackBerry. Huh? What?
What?
Windows and all the
Huh?
other
What? What?
stuff.
Windows? What? So and it's free.
Free.
We
And
like free.
one-stop shop for most of the stuff that I'm doing.
Okay.
You know.
Very good. Very good. You can also get the audio portion of what we just did. Two Dads, Six Daughters also is available on Mark Clark's app on iHeartRadio too. So I'll
Yeah.
give you all the links in the show notes and stuff like that. So thanks again for watching Two Dads, Six Daughters, man. Next week.
Next week, Tony.
Yeah, and we're trying something this week to try and do a Men on Scandal because Scandal begins this week. So we're going to try and put together like a 15-minute show after it airs and
That'd
get
be
it
great.
up of a man's perspective of Scandal. Women don't say, "Well, I thought Olivia Pope should have done this." Well, now we're going to tell you what men think Olivia Pope should have done. So we're going to have some fun with that too coming up later in the week, but I'll keep you updated on that. So, all right, man, next week, dude.
Same bad time.